No, you're not supposed to cross that yellow line over there.
There was someone backing out the road back
I know,
there.
but you know, okay. Our last video, I think I referred to him as a flatlander. So, you know, sometimes there's a guardrail there and sometimes there's not. I mean, you could just go straight over the mountain. I'm just checking with you, make sure you understood that.
Lord.
Yeah, and I don't run over the guy here. So
That's why I'm getting over.
go now. There's been nothing coming up for 5 minutes. So.
It's on the road.
So I'm imagining it's 33
It's a long way down over here. I can see all the way down. This is a
Yeah.
switchback. You see when you can be here and you look straight down here and see the road.
You know, I'm afraid of heights. I don't think it's a good idea to have me look over.
Yeah, you better watch the road.
I'm watching the road because I'm not. Dang, I'm not. That brake you have over there on your side must be working very well.
I pushed my leg off over here.
You have been pushing on that brake.
You'll have a dent in your floor over here, or a war spot in your carpet.
In the truck. And this is Robert Brown coming to you on site here outside the Holly Broadcasting Studios. And I'm here with Danny Vance. We're going to be starting our On the Road with Danny and Robert. Danny! What are you doing, man?
I thought we were doing a show on the road.
It's on the road with Danny and Robert, but in the truck.
Well, you didn't say that.
Well, come on.
What?
Nothing. Let's just ride.
That's right.
Well, here we are again. Robert Brown and Danny Vance with On the Road with Robert and Danny with the Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative. And since Danny likes to have an ongoing thing he says about me, like, you're not from around here, are you?
You're supposed to stop right here.
I did stop right there, Danny.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, maybe slow and go, I guess. But anyway, so what Danny's going to do, he's going to take me on some of these roads to show me what it looks like around here, and talk about some things that affect transportation for today's around this area. Some of the things the bus drivers have to, or the roads the bus drivers have to drive up.
Big hole in the road right here, man. Big pothole.
Okay, I'll be sure to hit it.
There you go.
All right, missed it. Yeah.
The roads in eastern Kentucky have been slated as to be poor to fair at best overall compared to the rest of the state.
Well, I tell you, I just know sometimes driving around, like if I'm going down to Buckhorn Lake or whatever, just going on that road. So thinking about that and thinking about some of the roads, like you said, being poor to fair, think about your bus drivers who are driving that. I mean, my hat's off to them, right?
Yeah, people don't realize what bus drivers deal with on a daily basis. They get out at the same time every morning, no matter if it's hot, cold, raining, snowing, whatever, and they have to be on time. They're on a set schedule. Every kid needs to be picked up at exactly the same time every day, and that, they're out a lot of times at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning on the road, and I think sometimes they get underappreciated. And bus drivers have a very important job in what they do, and then to deal with the roads we have to deal with in eastern Kentucky, with the potholes, the creeks, the break-off spots in the road. I think sometimes we just don't give them enough credit.
Yeah, so what I would like to do is, I want you just to kind of point. There's one road you took me up, and you were talking about driving that magic Subaru that could plow through snow and could use to move barges of ice. So head me that direction. If you don't mind, so you just had to point.
To that road?
Yes.
Okay, just go right straight ahead right here.
I have to tell you, my hat does go off to all the bus drivers because, we've had some bus drivers driving our kids not only back and forth to school, but they would go with us on field trips and made that part of their life.
Exactly.
We took a group camping one time, one of our bus drivers. He said, I'm staying the night too. So he brought his tent and he was out there with us for 5 days. And, your right or mine?
Well, mine, because I'm over here on this side. So you're not left-handed, are you?
No.
Okay, that's good.
No. But
because they tend to get that wrong sometimes. But you're exactly right. A lot of these drivers are committed enough to, no matter, you could call them at 3 o'clock in the day and say, we got a field trip at 5. Can you take that trip for us? And they'll do it. And I think there's a lot of people that won't do what they do for what they get paid. They're underpaid for sure. And but they're always willing to help out. And a lot of these schools don't have enough bus drivers. They have to double up runs, which throws things out of kilter a little bit. But they ought to be commended, and they ought to be more appreciated than what they are.
Yeah, well, I definitely appreciate them. So do I continue to go forward or turn right or
Turn right up here.
follow the hazard sign?
Follow the hazard sign.
So we're driving around and
Trying to educate Robert on these Eastern Kentucky highways is what we're trying to do here.
He wants to make me feel more around here.
I believe our last video, I think I referred to him as a flatlander. So you know he doesn't hardly know how to handle these roads up here. So I'm trying to. I've got him in training.
Which way?
Right.
See, there was an intersection here.
Yeah.
I could have gone straight through the
Now you
orange
want to get
barrels.
your left lane pretty quick once you pull out.
There are
right
orange
here.
barrels in the left lane.
Well, you need to get there in that turn lane.
Here?
We're going over the hill right here.
Right here?
Yeah.
Oh,
This is that hill that has those things called switchbacks in it that
a switchback.
Robert wasn't familiar with. So we're going to go give him another look at them, see if he understands them a little better now.
Yeah, well, and I'm fortunate that you're having me drive then, because if I was over there, I'd get car sick and be throwing up.
No, it's a
like
pretty
this,
big
so.
hill over here, as are most of the roads in Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes there's a guardrail there, and sometimes there's not. I mean, you could just go straight over the mountain.
So I'm imagining it's 33
It's a
degrees.
long way down over here.
It
I can
is
see all the way down. This is a switchback. You see, when you can be here and you look straight down over here and see the road.
You know, I'm afraid of heights. I don't think it's a good idea to have me look over.
Yeah, you better watch the road.
I'm watching the road because I'm not. Dang, I'm not. Oh, that was.
I mean, over here you
quite a
have a
drop.
guardrail over there on this side, and it's a straight off drop.
Yeah.
As are a lot of the roads in Eastern Kentucky. I mean, it's unreal.
So,
But that's why I said in our earlier video, I think you got the best drivers in the world in Eastern Kentucky. Your bus drivers and your truck drivers. Imagine some of these truck drivers that drive these roads with 40, 50, 60 tons of coal behind them. Those are good drivers. They're the best drivers around.
now you were a bus driver at one time.
I
weren't
was,
you,
yeah.
Danny? Yeah.
Like I said, I drove on and off for about 17 years while in school, and then field trips and all that for 5 or 6 more years.
I just know what I think in that report you were talking about. There's something I was reading in something similar. Which way am I going here?
I don't know where you want to go now.
Wherever there's more switchbacks, which would be the best way? Right or left?
Probably the left.
Okay. I'll put a signal on so the people behind me know which.
We might have to go down here a little bit and turn around and go back up this. But
I do
since
wanna
we got
go
you in
back.
training, we want to get you all the good experience we can, you see.
You're going to trust me to go back up that.
Yeah. See, if it was a snow one and I had the old Subaru, I would take you up with the snow on it.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you, that made my stomach queasy. But I'll do that again. I'll be happy to. But in that report, they're talking about, all the funding that schools get for bus drivers or for buses. And, a lot of the funding for the SEEK funding, it doesn't cover all the transportation costs.
Yeah, that article said that of those 5, we've got 5 of the 10 schools that are under 29% funded for SEEK.
29% funded for SEEK. Wow.
So that money then has to come from the board's general fund to cover those buses, and that's sometimes why we don't have enough buses to run in the counties. That's why we don't have the newer buses to run in the counties, and it's tough. They've got a battle trying to keep buses on the road to get these kids.
We once had a reporter that came here from New York City and was talking with us, and I got tickled at her because we were talking about driving places and we were visiting different schools.
I know you're not supposed to cross that yellow line over there.
There was someone backing out the road back there.
But okay, just so you know that
Do you
solid
have a backseat
a solid
driver's
yellow
license?
line means you're never supposed to go across it. You see.
Well, and someone's tail end out the road doesn't mean I get to ram it either. So,
I'm just checking with you, make sure you understood that.
Lord.
Yeah, now don't run over the guy here. So
that's why I'm getting over.
yeah, that was okay there. Well, I didn't want you to run over the guy.
Dang.
Eastern Kentucky.
So what was I saying? Reporter, and she was talking about. She said, Robert, how far before we get back to the KVEC office? I said, we're only about an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, I get tickled that you all keep talking about distance and frame of time.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, where I live, an hour, you would be in 2 different states, and you guys are going school to school. Mm-hmm. So when you think about transportation, and you think about accessibility, how far things are apart from each other, especially in this region that's the size of Connecticut. How long it's going to take, the additional mileage, additional fuel consumption, except additional time just to pick up kids, drop off kids, if you have events after school, how much later they get home, etc. So I just thought that was interesting take she had speaking to us, because I was like, oh, just an hour. She was, wow,
You can go
just
whichever
an
way you
hour.
want to. Probably, let's go left here.
Left here, okay.
You know, and that article we were just referring to hits that nail on the head too. It talks about, you know, as a state, when they divvy up transportation funding, they base it on students per mile. Well, the state average is 110 students per mile, per square mile.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's fine in the cities or whatever, but once you hit these rural areas, these buses may have to go 2 or 3 miles to pick up one kid.
Yeah.
So therein lies part of the other problem. We don't have the population density that these other areas do, so the buses run a lot more miles to get a busload of kids, and then they have to deal with the roads we have here also, just like we just ran over 2 or 3 more potholes right here on the road. This is the main road coming out of Hazard right here.
I was thinking about, I know I was watching the news and watching the weather radar as we were sitting at home. Seemed like we had a monsoon this past week, and thinking about these hills and the watersheds and the runoff.
Exactly.
Talk about flash floods. What kind of problems does that cause on some of these low-lying roads, especially down the hollers, for transportation, not just buses, but transportation in general?
Well, it's a serious problem. I'll bet you know, we didn't stage this at all, but I'll bet you we can go less than a mile here where we'll see brush in the road, just like right here. Look at all this brush in this ditch. You come on down the road, here's a tree stump laying right in the edge of the road right here. And when we get these heavy rains, these ditches can't carry the water. Well, it has to go over the road most of the time. So that's a lot of times what causes the road to break up, because the water goes across the road. The culverts can't handle it. You know, these hills are big. Once we get a heavy rain, the water rolls off these hills. It's got to go somewhere. For example, just anywhere on these roads you can look, there's usually a creek on one side and a ditch on the other side. So you've got a hillside over here or a creek over there. If you go out of the road, it's not going to be good either way you go. And bus drivers, you know, there have been some serious accidents with buses over the years in eastern Kentucky. I mean, there's water standing in the ditch here. The water nowhere to go.
Yeah.
But you know, really, for the miles they put on and the dangers they face every day driving these buses, it's amazing we don't have more accidents than we do. Which goes back to the point I said earlier. We've got some really good bus drivers in eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, I admire their dedication, that's for sure.
Man, I don't like riding on this side. I like being over there a lot better, because when you're over here,
You can see.
You can see straight down into the creek.
Yeah.
So
that's why I'm looking straight ahead.
that must be why I always like to drive, because you're over in the middle of the road anyway.
I'm not in the middle of the road. I'm on this side of the yellow.
You're sitting on the side near the middle of the road.
Okay.
You're not getting. We go off in this ditch, I'm gonna be the first one on the scene over here.
Well, I hope before we go off in the ditch, you tell me, Robert, you're too close to that side of the road. First of all,
It's too late then,
it could
probably.
be too late. Yeah. Gee.
Yeah.
So that particular place that we had driven down, are there any other? Well, here it comes up.
Yeah.
Are there any others that we're getting close to, just like that?
I don't think so.
All right,
You know,
well,
you're getting close to being able to loop back up on a 4-lane. You know, we've got good roads coming in
We
eastern,
do, yeah.
in and out of eastern Kentucky. I love eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
First of all, you need to understand I'm not down it at all. I'm just commending the people that drive these roads.
Oh yeah.
But we've got good major access roads coming into about everywhere in eastern Kentucky
yeah.
now. But they're, you know, we live out on these little roads, and the buses ran on these little roads, and that's where the skill comes in when it comes to driving.
I know sometimes when I'm here, you know, I drive down from Mercer County and I come down, you know, the straight roads or whatever. But when I'm here, I will drive these back roads, and I said one of the longest rides I've ever had was driving from Hazard to Buckhorn Lake. That was the longest 25 miles, because you can't go very fast because of all the curves and the hills and things.
Well,
So,
it's like this one. It says 15 miles per hour.
Yeah.
So
It's
you know that's going to be a pretty bad curve.
yeah, and it's in 2 right angles. So there's your math, okay? There.
Well, when they build roads, they pretty well follow the way the creek goes or the way the holler goes. So
That's good.
I've never seen a straight creek or a straight holler. So
You know, and I see sometimes as you look at these, you think about making sure we have good roads and repaired. When you get on some of these sharp curves, you see, like right here, you see these cracks, these breaks,
you got a break spot.
and they've had to.
And all
to
the steel
repair
driven on the side to hold the
Right.
hill.
Yeah.
It's everywhere here. It's part of life. It's
It
just
is
part of
part of
living
life,
here,
yeah.
and we just learn to deal with it.
I do drive around a lot in the country when I'm here, and I just love it. I've been coming down here forever, hiking and camping and 4-wheeling and things like that. And I always want to take the back roads.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather ride the back roads.
Oh, I would too.
But it all goes kind of back to where we're kind of this thing's all fun, but it has a serious nature too. You know, that the fact that we kind of get underfunded in transportation in Eastern Kentucky because of the roads, because of the lower population per square mile. So we're not compensated for those differences.
So you know, you look at that, you think, well, everyone gets an equal amount of money, but this isn't about equality. Right. It's about equity.
Exactly.
What do you need based on making sure everyone has the same amount? So I think the equity piece definitely needs to be looked into when you look at any kind of funding when it comes to transportation.
What I read in a few articles, you know, years ago we had this thing called CARA in the early 90s that kind of helped with some of those things. But now it's kind of drifting away from that again, and the discrepancy, the differences in funding is actually showing up a lot more now than it had been. Well, so I don't know where the future, how that's going to come back in alignment, but somebody needs to address that and look at what these rural counties are having to deal with. You know, here lays a tree in the road.
Right there, let me get over.
So,
okay. And you know, and you think about addressing that, you know, that formula worked at the time, but that's been since 1990.
Right.
So you've had population changes. So
Exactly.
your local contribution has gotten lower. Right. So or your local contribution actually has increased because the SEEK funding hasn't kept into that. So right. Your local taxes have gone up.
Right.
So that's been part of the problem with the SEEK and looking at what have the changes been because of population density changes.
Well, and part of it comes too from lack of coal mining. They don't get the severance tax off coal, and then the unmined minerals, I guess that hurts too, and doesn't have the value it had at one time. Apparently, I don't know all those legalities, but there's some issues there with both of those that contribute to this problem.
Yeah, so well, just driving around through here, it's just beautiful country, and I know when I'll drive around here in the spring, the red buds and the dogwoods are bloomed, and then in the fall, all the fall foliage, and then in the summer. Just the whole drive constantly on these back roads through any part of Eastern Kentucky. Of course, you know, in Wolfe County, I go Natural Bridge quite often. That's one of my two go-to places as part of that work. And then, what the breaks? The other one is that in Bell County?
Breaks are in Pike County.
Pike County.
We'll get back up. You want to get back up on 4 lane?
Let's go back on 4 lane. Okay. So, Pike County.
Right.
But Bell County is another place I've gone where we've gone four-wheeling and things. So just beautiful areas to drive.
It is. I mean,
areas to just
look at this nice creek. I call it creek, river, or whatever.
All along the road.
You know, you've got the streams are nice, the trees, the homes, the people. You know, they're happy people here.
I tell you what, though, you know, you call me a flatlander, and that's okay because something happened this past week, and I realized, oh my gosh, people are going to fuss at me at home even. I live out in a rural part where I live, and there was a fire, and I had called 911, and they said I can't see the address of the house, and even though I live out in the country, you're going to know why I'm going to get picked on. I said, it's not my house, but here's my address because the fire is right across the street.
Yeah.
Well, my neighbor said, we don't have streets. We have what?
We got roads.
We have roads. And I thought, oh, so you call me a flatlander? I said, oh boy. And he said, in front of all these people, he goes, was that boy, did he get raised in the city or the country? And he goes, he's a city boy.
City boy. Yeah. City
so
boy.
I claim both.
Well, see, I can tell you're a flatlander too, because see you drive over next to the yellow line, you see. That's
because,
how I said you could tell when you get behind.
You know why I do? Because it's straight down on the other side.
I know, but see, us local people, we just go ahead and put her on the white line over here and go, you know. Yeah. Go right ahead there.
Go right ahead.
And and then you'll go up here and hang a left.
All right.
But no, it's funny to get behind people that aren't local, or especially these big over-the-road truck drivers. Some of them get lost and get on a road like this, and you're going to turn left right here. They get on a road like this and they panic. They don't know what to do because they have never been in this situation. But yet they got CDL license and they're supposedly have passed a driving test and all this. But put them on a little road like we just got off of and they'll panic.
Well, I want to say this to you before we sign off on this. That brake you have over there on your side must be working very well.
I pushed my leg off over here.
You have been pushing on that brake.
You'll have a dent in your floor over here or a war spot in your carpet.
So maybe next time you better drive.
I'm not used to riding over here. I'm over there all the time.
Oh,
we're going to go right-handed here, by the way.
Okay, well, there's nobody coming.
You can go now. There's been nothing coming up for 5 minutes. So.
Well, I didn't know your foot was still on the road holding me back.
Well, I was trying to, stop you there when we could.
But I almost stopped anyway. Well, that's our first episode for today, and I enjoyed having my time with Danny here.
I enjoy it too. I enjoy the fact that we can cut up and carry on about this stuff, but still address real issues that we're dealing with, and hopefully let the people know that we're aware that there are issues, and we're going to do everything we can to try to help out and get the word out.
Yeah, so on behalf of KVEC, we just want to thank all of our bus drivers, and we commend your work, and we're proud of what you do, and we will holler at you later.
Holler at you later.